what a treat to be able to hear the story that he's been through the last couple of years, because that is quite the journey for this one project. This is Truly Independent, a show that demystifies the indie film journey by documenting the process of releasing independent films in theaters. Each week, Garrett Batty and I, Daren Smith, will update you on our journey, bringing guests to share their insights into the process and answer your questions.
Welcome to another week of Truly Independent. We are, what is this, episode 1,000,000? It's good to be here. I'm Garrett Batty, and with me, as always, my co-host, Daren Smith. Daren, how are you?
I'm so good. I think we just freaked the audience out, though, because they went from like, wait, there's 1,000,000 more episodes I haven't listened to? Where am I going to find the time?
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they're thinking. Daren, with us, I'm very excited about today's episode. As in the past, we bring in just top quality, top tier, top talent guests, and this week's episode is no exception. With us is Cameron Sawyer, a good friend that we've worked together in the past. And Cameron, thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for having me.
I don't even know where you are. Are you? We know that the podcast is recorded in Utah.
Yes, and I live in the great state of Utah.
Are you now? Okay.
I'm here in Utah. I'm in Sandy, Utah. Nice. It's South Salt Lake.
Okay. Well, good. Well, it works out then. We're all in the same time zone. Thank you again very much for being here, Cameron. I reached out to you and said, hey, we would love to talk about some of these projects that you've been working on, because I've been following a little bit just some of your public posts about some very exciting projects, and thought it would be just a perfect fit for Truly Independent and our listeners. And it's a little bit selfish because I just want to kind of pick your brain to see how you're doing all the stuff that you're doing.
Well, I want to pick your brain, so this will work out.
This will be great. Yeah. Forget about the audience. We're just here to kind of chat. Well, good. So just by way of introduction, can you just give us an introduction of kind of who you are and what you've done and kind of what brought you to this point?
Sure. Yeah. I grew up in Utah. No members of my family were filmmakers.
Same story so far.
Yeah, which, so it was like, is this something I could actually do for a living? I had one cousin who decided to go into film, and I thought, you lucky man. You're gonna starve, but good luck. I just wish I had the courage that he had to go into film.
It's not by chance his name is Cameron as well.
It's Brandon Sawyer.
Brandon Ryder.
Yeah.
He's
he's amazing. I love Brandon. He was the showrunner of Boss Baby on Netflix.
Oh, he did Boss Baby, did Penguins, right?
So it worked out for him.
He's done all right.
Yeah, he's done all right. But it was a leap of faith, and I remember our grandmother was so proud of him. And I just thought, man, I mean, that's what I would want to do if I had my choice, Anyway, so I've always been a huge fan of big budget movies, big spectacle. Love Steven Spielberg, David Fincher, some of those filmmakers, and I went to BYU as an undergrad, studied broadcast journalism because it was sort of entertainment adjacent, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Allowed me to
safety net.
Yeah, safety net allowed me to shoot and edit things, but I thought, okay, well, it's probably a little bit more. I could probably make a living doing that.
Hireable,
hireable or whatever.
Yeah,
and anyway, I worked in business for a couple of years after my undergrad, and I just felt like film was my calling. I always felt that way, even when I was young. You guys probably have the same experience.
Same curse.
Same curse. No, that's exactly right. It's a curse. And so I just thought, finally what occurred to me, it was like, I truly wouldn't mind living in a van down by the river if I could make movies.
Yeah.
And when I decided that, I was like, I'm all in. There's no backup plan. I'm all in.
That's a scary it's a scary decision to make, scary mindset to be in, but you think, you know what, there's a whole city, whole Southern California is full of that
Right.
mindset, and they're somehow they're making it work.
Yeah. So I applied to film schools and to be a director, and I got into pretty much the Harvard of film schools for big budget filmmaking. It's
What
called
FM?
Chapman University.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and they're really big on how do I explain this? Just sort of like it's a conservatory approach where you have a core group of directors, a core group of cinematographers, editors, producers, and you sort of focus on one thing. And they picked 19 directors out of, I heard, thousands of, you know, applications.
Applicants. Yeah.
And at the time, it was really on the rise. And then the Duffer Brothers, who went to Chapman, made Stranger Things, and now it's just really on the map, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had an amazing experience there. My thesis advisors were top-notch filmmakers. Martha Coolidge was one of my advisors.
Oh, is that right?
David Ward, who wrote and directed all the Major League movies. John Badham did War Games, and I had the best professors at Chapman.
Yeah.
It was such a
Yeah.
good experience. I'm still in debt. I'll be in debt for many more years because of that experience. But I loved it. And the best thing about going to film school, and I know it's not for everyone, and it's not a necessary thing. But for me, the best thing was to just sort of experiment with my voice and have all that support, because filmmaking's expensive, you know, and
Yeah.
it's time,
Yeah.
and you need support. So anyway, my graduate thesis film was, I decided to do something kind of personal, and I did a film about my first relationship in the 5th grade. It's called She's a Fox.
Yes.
And
Is this where we get to credit you with finding one of our major national treasure talents right now?
yes, I bring it up all the time because it's one of the things that sort of gave me confidence to keep moving forward. But I cast then unknown Haley Steinfeld to be in to be the fox in the movie.
Yeah.
And by the way, if your viewers want to watch this, it's on Vimeo.
Okay.
I can.
She's a fox.
She's a fox. Yep. Anyway, that movie did really, really great on the festival circuit,
Sure.
and sort of gave me the heat to raise money to do my first feature film, which was Tim Timmerman, Hope of America.
And that's where we started interacting. We kind of engaged in that. I was on the marketing side of that.
Yeah, you cut the trailer.
Yeah.
You did a great job. So
well,
thank
it's
you for that.
such a fun movie. Like I remember watching it for the first time. Like, this is Ferris Bueller. Yeah, done in a very, very fun style.
Yeah, you picked up on all the things that made that movie interesting, I guess, and we picked the right person to do the trailer. So thank you, Garrett, for that.
Well, okay, and then you put that with Angel. You released that through Angel at some point, didn't you?
Yes.
Kind of help Angel. That was one of their first feature films.
That was their first release, and it was actually, at the time, it was VidAngel.
Yeah.
And it was their first movie release, and we had a great experience getting to know them, and it's been fun to see their trajectory and to see them get bigger as a distributor. But yeah, that was a really crucial relationship that was developed is through that movie. And it was through that movie. And by the way, I gotta say this to you. I've loved this mantra that I want to say to all your filmmakers out there. This is such a good mantra, and you guys probably can relate to this. I once heard that those who produce. And I don't know if does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. We talk all the time about how if you're a writer, you have to be writing. If you're an actor, you need to be acting. Like that's the gig. That's the deal. That's what you do every day. Mm-hmm. And producing, I think you have the most autonomy of all those because it comes down to you anyway. So might as well go make stuff.
Yeah, especially now when it's so inexpensive to make things. You
Yeah.
know, it's so easy to just sort of like keep developing and not produce anything. And I just, when I heard that, it really helped me as a filmmaker, because I thought, I gotta get things off. I gotta make it happen. And I've lost my train of thought now, but
Well, and you're doing that. You're doing that. So it seems like a variety of projects. I mean, whether it's a short film or a feature or whatever else you're working on, you're
oh,
you're
yeah,
producing. You're making stuff
you
happen.
reminded me of where I was going with that. So one of the people that I met on Tim Timmerman was Christian Busaith.
Oh,
Yeah. I cast him to play the security guard. I'd never met him. I actually cast him off of the internet. He was sort of an internet sensation.
Yeah.
He played
yeah, rightfully so. I mean, he's
Fruit
just
Ninja and a
brilliant.
whole
It's
bunch of other stuff.
so yeah, Fruit
yeah, the
Ninja
Fruit
is just
Ninja.
so fun to watch, and
He's
what a wonderful guy.
he is so creative, and he's so brilliant, and especially with comedy. And we became fast friends. And he was the one who came to me like a year later and said, "I think we need to do Fablehaven." And
That's not a small project. It's not a small
it's
book.
not small, no. And I was like, "Okay, tell me more." And he said, "He said you hadn't heard of the book." And just to be really transparent, at the time I had not heard of the book. So he's like, "You must read it tonight."
Yeah, yeah.
So I went and read it feverishly. I could not believe that book had not been produced yet into a movie or a TV series.
Right. My kids are still saying that today because they are obsessed with Fablehaven.
Yeah.
And telling him, I told my oldest son, who's the most obsessed, that we're chatting today, and he was like, "I hate you so much. I can't believe you have this life where you get to talk to cool people all the time."
Oh, that's awesome. Anyway, I fell in love with it. I immediately saw that it needed to be made, like it had to be made. And if I was lucky enough to be a part of that, then I'd be a lucky man.
So, Cameron, how do you wrap your brain around that from an independent filmmaker point of view? You know, you've made Tim Turner. You've got, it seems like, all of these different puzzle pieces. You know, maybe in access to that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have this book that, reading through it, you know, I've read through it, and you go, hey, this is not an independent film budget.
No,
This
no,
is something
and
that we're going to
Garrett,
need some
no,
flexing.
it's a really great point you bring up. Well, first of all, one of the things that I learned by making my first independent feature, and by the way, I didn't set out to be an independent filmmaker. I wanted to be part of the club. I wanted to join Hollywood,
Yeah,
and I had the background that made me totally hireable in
sure.
Hollywood.
Yeah,
And I got some offers to be a writer on some TV shows, but I really wanted to direct. And so I went into independent filmmaking out of necessity, because I knew that was my way into directing and the way I could show that I can direct. But through that experience, one of the things that I learned is that it's so helpful to have a property that people already recognize. And that's why studios, they do remakes, they do movies based on books and things like that.
Yeah,
Not
always
always. I love original content, but I thought, this next one that I do, I want to do something that's recognizable, and I want to do it with Hollywood.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
So
did not
what time
anticipate.
period is this? Like, when was this happening when you had the conversation with Christian and said, we need to go pursue this? Because the
Mhm.
book was already big. And so how did you start, and when was this
The book,
timeline?
yes, good question, Daren. The book had bounced around Hollywood for
The
Okay.
rights to it.
the rights for like 15 years. And it had, people would pick up the rights, and then it would go into development hell, and then they'd drop the rights, and then somebody else would pick up the rights. And so this was 2018, and the rights just happened to be available. And Christian knew the author's sister. So he said,
Nice.
do you think that we could set up a lunch meeting?
Did Brandon's the author, Brandon Mull,
Mhm.
did he own the rights or did
He did.
Shadow
Well,
Mountain?
yes, he and Deseret Book, Shadow Mountain,
Shadow Mountain.
which is
Yeah.
under the umbrella of Deseret Book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
And to date, it's like their biggest book. Um,
Oh,
Oh, easily.
yeah. One of my first encounters with Fablehaven was I was invited to a book release event.
mhm.
And I don't know why I was there because I was clearly the oldest person in the room. It was just packed. I mean, this auditorium, probably 700, high school age students, just, you know, rabid for this next release. It was
Yeah.
amazing,
Oh yeah,
amazing. Okay,
really, really big.
so they own the rights.
So they
Brandon owns the rights. You're at lunch with the sister.
We're at lunch with Brandon.
Oh, nice.
So she
Okay.
set up the lunch, and we just pitched him really hard on it, and we have a vision for how we want the movie to go.
Yeah.
And
So it's you and Christian doing the pitching?
this is Christian and me, and
Okay.
and Brandon really liked what he was hearing, but he wanted to read a script. So we wrote a script on spec.
Oof.
2 months. 2 months to write it was basically a rough draft of the script.
Yeah.
And we gave it to Brandon, and he said, "It's clear that you guys get this."
Hmm.
And
Cool.
kudos for him, or to him, for recognizing that. And so he said, "I will. Let's start the process." And it was not an easy process. We had to work through his agent at Writer's House. We had to work through Deseret Book, Shadow Mountain. We had to work through our lawyers, and it went back and forth. It was probably a 6-month process of
And are you just incurring costs on this? I mean, is there
yeah.
any development money, or you're just saying, "Hey, we believe in this project. We're gonna kind of bootstrap this thing"?
We incur well. So our attorney worked on oh, I don't even know what that's called. Where
Pro
he
bono?
pro bono basically, but knowing that if we did a deal, at some point that he would be paid his percentage.
Okay, kind of deferred.
Um, we did incur some costs. I think it was I can't remember. I mean, we had to buy the option.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so
Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, and I know this is going to make some of your listeners kind of sick to their stomach if they don't have sort of like a um, propensity to what's it called, to gamble.
Just say you didn't mortgage your house.
Yeah, well, we took out a loan, took out a really big loan,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and bought the rights for 18 months. And this is in 2000. This is middle of 2018. I think it might have been 2019. Do you
Right
guys
Wow.
before
remember what
COVID.
happened the next year?
Okay, so you're
Everybody
sharing.
was accepting pitches. Come into our office and pitch us with
Yeah.
no masks on.
Yeah, exactly. So it was
Wow.
crazy when COVID hit. We were just like, what now? Because studios stopped making movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what happened though is streaming took off because people were stuck at home watching.
Yeah.
There was like an 80% jump in streaming or something like that.
And it was all that nostalgia fair, like anything nostalgic, anything. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
awesome. This would have been. Yeah.
So it was really weird timing. What happened is when you do an option deal in the contract, it says that if there's an act of God, that it extends the length of the contract.
Nice.
Well, that was a pretty big act of God. If some
Global
people might say
pandemic
it was
qualifies? Yeah.
an act of the Chinese or something, but whatever you might call it, I think it qualifies. A world pandemic qualifies as an act of God,
Yeah.
and it extended the rights, and then what's interesting is a lot of streaming services started reaching out to us. And I'll mention some of these names. Disney reached out, Apple reached out, I think Amazon. So it really helped us to pitch.
Okay, so
Really,
let's pause for 1 second there because everyone listening to this is going to go, but how did that happen?
how did that happen?
So what were you doing to make those kind of players aware of your project?
There were a couple of things that happened. Number one, a professor of mine at film school connected me to our attorney, Mark Von Arx.
Hmm.
And he's been a Hollywood attorney for 30 years. So that really helped us out, gave us some clout. And then my movie, Tim Timmerman, was seen by an internet celebrity who, Scott DW. Do you guys know? You probably
Yeah.
know Scott.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
He was working with a really big Hollywood producer, and I won't name names, but that producer, uh, I got to know him through that project. So I was hired by, or I was brought on to that project with Scott to help him write. It was a high school comedy,
Fun.
and once again, the feature film Tim Timmerman, it helped me meet Scott DW, who helped me meet this producer in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, that project fell apart, which often happens with productions. And then I reached out to this producer and I said, "Hey, I have some other projects," and I mentioned Fablehaven. And he read the script. It took him a month to get to it,
Yeah.
but he read the script and he said, "This is the next Harry Potter." And I had the chills for like a week, you know? So he's like, we didn't sign a contract with him, didn't sign a shopping agreement with him. But he said, could I take it out and see if I can get it set up at a studio with you directing? And I said, twist my arm.
Yeah. 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 Now,
So
let me think about that for about 4 seconds.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So I was really excited about that. But and I'll be really transparent about this. I think this might be helpful to your listeners, but the studios had a real hard time with me being the director.
Yeah. Just, I would assume, just lack of resume.
Lack of resume in the Hollywood system.
Yeah.
And I was like,
we had the same thing happen when we were pitching. We'd go down to AFM, we'd meet with all the distributors and sales agents and be like, look, we got this project. And they'd say, great, you should actually do it for more money than you're saying, but you can't have your director. We need someone who's proven.
yeah. And thankfully, so I mentioned the Duffer brothers that went to my film school. Thankfully, I'd learned from their experience.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood tried to squeeze those guys out over and over and over, the studios. and tried to change the story. Like, hey, I don't think it should be about kids. I think it should actually be about the cop, or I mean, their story's if you can just Google it and you can watch videos on YouTube about it. But all the studios tried to squeeze them out, and it was Netflix that actually said, we're going to let you guys direct. And how did that turn out for Netflix?
Everybody did okay with that deal.
I've never heard
all
of
right. So I thought to myself, I'm not going to let them squeeze us out. There was one studio that we got really excited about, and they allowed us to be a real big part of the process. And it was weird. We felt really good about it. And we thought, you know what? I know our dream is to make this into a movie, but I think it would be an okay TV show. Let's go ahead and just see what they can do with it. And so we did sell the rights to a big studio. And then it went into development hell. And hell is the key word.
Just gets creatively,
oh my gosh,
suctioned.
After that happened, we all regretted it. A few months in, we were just like, this isn't the right direction for Fablehaven.
What are the signs? Are they sending scripts? Are they saying, okay, here's who we want to attach?
They hired a really big showrunner to develop the project, and his interpretation of the material, you wouldn't even recognize it was Fablehaven.
Yeah.
The title was the only thing. He was combining characters, totally rewriting the story, which is like insane to us because the story is what made it.
That's what fills up the auditoriums every time he releases a book.
That's why that book is so brilliant is the story, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, Cameron, are you still paying off the loan, or
No,
like did you
no,
get
we
a
had
good enough
sold
deal to?
we had sold the rights to this studio, and we actually had the foresight to say that if they didn't produce the show, that we would get the rights back.
Nice.
So
Was there
again,
a time limit there, or is that what it was?
I'm trying to think. Let me think.
Or did they have to just pass? They just eventually said, no, we're not going to do it.
They had a year and a half to do
Gotcha.
it, and then they could have re-upped.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. It was sort of an act of fate, I think. They had a huge hit with another show, and it made them switch their whole focus onto a different genre.
Gotcha.
And they called us immediately, and they said, "You guys want this back? Because we have to buy it back." And so they wanted us to buy it back. And in the interim, Angel Studios had really taken off.
Okay.
And I was like,
with whom you had already worked.
with whom I'd already worked, and we wanted to do this as a movie. We'd always wanted to do this as a movie.
Yeah.
So I was like, the stars are aligning. We have to buy this back, and we have to move forward with Angel. And that's what we did. We bought the rights back. We worked out a distribution deal with Angel. And our goal right now is to release this movie end of 2026.
Holy cow! So when did those rights? When did you buy those rights back? 23, 24, or was it before?
6 months ago. 6
Oh
months
wow!
ago.
Okay, so you were in this kind of development hell for
A long time.
Yeah. So are there, I mean, lessons from the battlefield? You're talking 2019 to 2024.
Yeah.
On this project.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess the main lesson that I've learned is that you guys know this. If a movie's going to get made, it's going to get made. Like things will fall into place to have it. And by the way, we're not out of the woods. We hope to have some, important announcements soon. But we're still raising money.
Are we going to break anything on this podcast? Are we ready to break?
I wish I could. No, but
we've done it before with other guests, so we are establishing ourselves as the go-to place.
Yeah. It'll come out about 4 weeks from now. It'll be breaking news.
Bring me back on if we have breaking news. But no, I just kind of feel like art in general, filmmaking, and this is sort of like la-di-da-di, like, how do I explain this? Like, I just feel like things happen the way they're supposed to happen. I'll give you an example. I've been listening to Peter Jackson in the making of Middle Earth because it's like a triumph. It's like the greatest fantasy movie ever, or movie series ever made.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing to me how close they came to not getting that made. New Line Cinema was their last ditch. If it wasn't New Line, it wasn't getting made.
Yeah.
And then even after they did a deal, like, Peter Jackson was getting all this pressure. They came this close to hiring Sean Connery to play Gandalf.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage was apparently offered Aragon.
Okay.
I mean, think about how. I think Sean Connery would have done a decent job, but I can't imagine Nicolas Cage as Aragon. I'm trying to think of all the things, but like, and they had cast somebody else to play Aragon. It was we
were talking to Russell Crowe at one point.
Viggo Mortensen didn't come in until just a couple weeks before production.
Yeah. No, he came in after production started.
Or yeah. A couple weeks before he was supposed to shoot, right? He's like reading the book on the plane down to New Zealand.
Yeah. Stuart Townsend.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He went through all of the rehearsals, everything, and it's really tragic for him, but they fired him like 2 days into the production because they just didn't feel like it wasn't right. So I don't know. I just think that setbacks happen. Devastating things happen, but if your heart's in the right place and you have a vision and you try to stick to it, I think really good things come about,
So
I don't know.
So without announcing anything, you're back with you're with Angel. You've got the support there. There's a distribution deal set up.
Mhm.
You and Christian are kind of just gung ho, guns a blazing.
Mhm.
We're moving things forward. Is that?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, you got a release date.
We
The
have
end
a
of
release date,
yeah,
it's the same. It's the problem that every independent film has is money, right?
yeah,
Not the problem, but it's the biggest
obstacle or
obstacle. It's the biggest, yeah, step
I
forward.
would actually say, from our experience, the audience, the marketing is the hardest part. The financing is secondary. But you've
Oh,
already solved
interesting.
that problem by saying this is a beloved thing. It's been 20 years that this book's been around,
Mhm.
and there's already a massive fan base for it. So just being able to announce on some outlet, Fablehaven movie coming to theaters, you've already got millions of people who are interested in that.
Yeah. What's exciting about it is that Angel has a really big reach in terms of how many theaters they can get into.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they're killing it right now with King of Kings, and
Mhm.
certainly Faith of Angels is being distributed there on their streaming side. And
Mhm.
I mean, we're at maybe I'm not allowed to say those numbers.
So awesome. No, it's so great. They have over 1 million subscribers now on their
Right.
streaming service.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if it's 5 by the end of this year at the rate they're going. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
They're
their
really
growth
doing
chart's
great.
a hockey stick right now. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and our movie's more mainstream than they've done in the past. They have done some mainstream movies, because a lot of what they do is faith-based. But I think that they really, from a strategic standpoint, I think this is important to them because they wanna make family movies.
Yeah.
And I think Fablehaven, uh, it's certainly not, it's a little scary. It's a little scary in places, but it's good versus evil. It's,
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
you can
something.
it's perfect. I mean, you can clearly see why the Angel audience and a broad,
Mhm.
nationwide theatrical audience is gonna support this movie.
Yeah, you wanna teach your kids the consequences of evil, and that evil's out there, and that there's good versus evil, right? And I really believe in that. And this movie, this story really sort of focuses on the theme of making choices and how choices have consequences and things like that. And I think that plays right into uh, good family fare, basically.
So, Cameron, what are you mentioned funding is still the obstacle. That will always be the obstacle. I mean, you've got the best picture winner that stands up in his Oscar speech and says, please continue to fund these movies.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, independent or Hollywood, we're always looking for to ways around that obstacle.
Yeah.
And so that's where you're at now
Hmm.
as an independent, but you're also doing this very independently. Saying, hey, we're going to go outside the studio system
Hmm.
because we're taking control of the content and we're making a stand on what we want
Hmm.
in theaters,
Yeah.
which is an amazing thing. You've had some success with crowdfunding um,
Hmm.
through Angel. Is that right? Do you want to?
Let me think. No, we passed the guild with a torch
Okay,
video.
okay, that's what you do. You pass the guild.
Yeah, and the way Angel does their fundraising is they sort of leave it to the filmmakers to raise the funds for the production.
Right.
And then once the movie's produced, they will do a crowd raise for marketing, P&A.
Marketing,
Mhm.
which is awesome. It's great.
Which I just invested in King of Kings just to try it out, just to
Yeah.
see how it's going, and it looks like there'll be a return on that. But that's how they do it. They do sort of a last minute push in crowdfunding, and what it does is it creates some excitement around the movie when you
Yeah.
have multiple investors uh, investing in the P&A.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, they become your. Not only do they become investors, but they become a very grassroots marketing team.
Yeah,
Mhm. You
Um,
get free word of mouth in addition.
it's part of the secret sauce of what they do. The guild is a huge part because guild members get free tickets um, and yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah, it's a great model.
mhm.
And I think your title is perfect for it. It's so exciting
Yeah,
from just an outsider perspective to be watching, kind of going, rooting for it, and saying, "Okay, man, this is
yeah,
let's prove the model right here."
we're excited about it, and we feel like the timing is just really great.
Yeah.
It's just a great book, amazing book series. Really great distributor with Angel. Uh, and the technology's come a long way just in the last few years. Did you guys watch House of David at all? Have you watched any of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's Amazon Prime from the Irwin brothers.
Amazon Prime. Yeah, I actually worked on that show in Greece last summer.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so I got to hang out on the set and meet all the actors and all this stuff. It was really great. And but they used a lot of AI technology in that show, and
Wow.
uh, some of the AI technology is unbelievable. And I don't know exactly how we'll utilize that. Maybe in some production design. Um,
Oh yeah, I think I mean, and it's so accessible. It's available to, in every stage of production. I think
yeah,
AI is involved, and not necessarily to replace jobs, but to
no.
certainly enhance what we're doing.
Mhm,
And yeah, from Darren and I have talked a little bit about even in development,
mhm.
using AI to start building out your
Visualization and things like that. Previs.
visualization. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's really great timing, and filmmaking is just so much more accessible, and that's the good news to independent filmmakers.
I was asked. I was at a presentation this weekend, speaking to a group of a couple hundred people, and uh, uh, one of the questions, and I'm going to ask it to you
Mhm,
because I'm not sure I answered it right,
mhm,
but they stood up and said, with this proliferation of, everybody has cameras in their pockets, and we can distribute via YouTube. What does that do for independent filmmakers? Like, what is it? How does that? Is that scary or helpful, or what's your take on what you just said about technology being accessible and everything being
mhm.
being available to us? How does that help us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if this answers your question, but I've thought a lot about that, and I mentioned earlier that film school was a good way to experiment and to try new things out and see what your voice is like. Uh, well, when I was in school, you made a movie and you went to film festivals. But
Yeah,
now, and it was expensive. I mean, my short film was like $15,000. Um, when when you are on the internet, you can shoot things on your phone. You can edit on your phone. It's very inexpensive, and people are more forgiving online. Wouldn't you guys say, as
Mhm.
far as the quality? And it's like you have a test group right in front of right at
yeah,
your hands. You can
yeah.
literally just try things out, and if they hit, you can be like, "Oh, that works. That's interesting. Maybe
Yeah.
I should keep going in that direction." So, I think it's a good way to eh, inexpensively experiment.
Uh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense,
Mhm,
and how great it is that we all have that access to it. And I
mhm,
I encouraged him to say, look, use this to improve your craft. I think what it will do
mhm,
is it'll improve everybody from the kind of who wants to be interested in it.
mhm.
Oh, I want to try this out and prove it, or sort them out and say, oh, that's tough. I don't like to do that.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mentioned
it
I
will cause
mentioned
people
yeah.
like you that are using it and doing it to
Mhm,
be able to rise to the top and go, okay, now it's going to improve our theatrical experience because Brandon, who's producing all this stuff and now is putting that skill into Fablehaven,
mhm.
is going to really know how to bring it.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier, Scott DW, right?
Yeah,
He's an internet sensation. That's how he met that Hollywood producer, is making internet videos. If you haven't seen his videos,
they're just
sh
high energy and so fun to
so
watch and
fun,
just yeah,
so good. And Christian was a internet celebrity.
yeah,
So, it's really cool because it's an avenue to break in, right? Like,
yeah,
with
great.
art, it's all about, like, everyone wants to know, how do you break in? Like, I mean, if you want to be a doctor, there's a certain path, right?
Mhm.
You go to medical school for X amount of years, and then
Right,
you go
right.
and do your rotations, and then, but there's literally no playbook in filmmaking, and it's scary. It's scary, but there's also a lot of opportunity. I mean, a lot of filmmakers have broken in through stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
now filmmakers are breaking in through the internet, and it's just exciting. I would just look at it as another sort of tool that if you can get really good at doing internet videos, it can open up doors for you. That's the way I
Yeah.
would look at it,
Yeah.
but it's not the only way.
Yeah.
Man, I could just talk with you forever because I want to ask all sorts of questions. You've been super generous with your time. Um, what's the takeaway, Brandon? I mean, as far as where you are now, what's the takeaway on what these past 5 years of developing Fablehaven have become, and then just like immediate next steps. What can our listeners help or watch for or help you do?
Well, I don't know. The takeaway for me is that uh, I think that you guys would agree with this, is that if we can make movies, uh, we're the luckiest people on the earth.
Yeah.
That was the coolest thing about going to film school. And like I said, your listeners shouldn't think that they have to go to film school. It's not a necessary step, step to breaking in or whatever. But what was amazing is when I went to school, I all of a sudden everyone I was in school with believed that filmmaking was one of the greatest things that you can do
Yeah.
on the planet. It wasn't something that was looked down on or like it wasn't taken seriously as a career or whatever the case may be. Um, I just think we're really lucky if we can be involved in filmmaking in any capacity because
Yeah.
it's so special. There's a reason why it's probably the most popular art form in the world. We need stories. It's important. It's funny to me how society puts such a high value on film and art, but then when their sons and daughters want to go into filmmaking, it's like, no, you can't do that. My parents were so great, by the way.
Yeah.
They were just like, we will help you in any way, like do it, go for it. This is, you have a propensity for this, so go and do it. But a lot of people's families just aren't supportive, communities aren't supportive, and I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. That's the takeaway. Is that we're just really lucky if we can make films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a 43 minutes of this podcast and go, God, what a journey. Like 5 years working on one story. What a journey. And now in this last minute to hear you say it's worth it. Like this is the dream.
It's worth it unless it all falls apart on this one. But then I'll just go and do something else.
Just can't we just give up and just go be a brain surgeon? Like let's do something easy.
Well, if I was born with that love, then yeah. But no, you're right. Like there's a trade-off. I mean, I don't know how to explain this. It's like you can go and do that stuff, and it's great. Um, taking care of your family is the most important thing, I think, personally.
For sure.
But if you can do that and make movies like that, oh my gosh,
Yeah, it's winning the lottery.
that's
Yeah.
winning the lottery. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
Okay, man. It's
Thank
so
you.
good to chat with you. Good to catch up, and thank you for sharing your experience. And we're just know that we're just rooting for you. We just can't. So
well,
excited
I
for you.
really appreciate that, and I'm rooting for you guys. I've loved watching you guys progress and keep making good movies, and
Thank you.
it's nice to know you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Amazing.
Okay, appreciate you guys listening in. We'll do a little wrap up here.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Cameron Sawyer, what a treat to be able to hear the story that he's been through the last couple of years, because that is quite the journey for this one project.
It really is, and just to see his like positivity and optimism and just relentless effort it's motivating. Honestly, it's inspiring. Some people might look at that and say that's exhausting, but you go, no, that's how these things are done.
Yeah, I wonder how they feel about it, but to me, it seems like a benefit to have this kind of forcing function of an option agreement, right? If you have 18 months to get into production, that lights a fire under your butt a little bit. And you go, okay, well, I got to figure it out or else I don't get to do it. And so I wonder if there's some way that we could do that to ourselves, give ourselves an 18-month option agreement on an idea to say, look, I'm going to push hard on this thing for 12 or 18 months. And if it doesn't come together in that amount of time, I'm going to move to the next project or something like that. I wonder if that would benefit certain filmmakers who need that sort of extra element to make progress every day. But I wonder if that's been helpful for them.
Yeah, it could be a great principle to kind of stay motivated, right? I always think, I can on set, I'm shooting 6 to 8 pages a day, and we're getting 100 people to work together to
Yeah.
complete at the end of the day 6 to 8 pages. So why in the world can't I sit down in the morning and write 6 to 8 pages a day as a writer? I'm the only person there, and so um,
Because you
yeah.
don't have craft services in your office. That's why.
Okay, well, let's make that happen then. That seems like a pretty easy fix.
Simple solution.
If at
Have
the
some
end
good
of
drinks and some good
4
snack
weeks
bits.
if at the end of 4 weeks I have a script done, that's worth having a craft service in your office first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
anyway.
having done that same thing, because I think it's an interesting topic, like I've written scripts in 6 months and I've written scripts in 3 weeks because I had an executive producer say, give me a script.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, I'm going to get this as quickly as possible because they want to develop it together. And it came together in 3 weeks. And I don't think it was because the idea was better or easier. I think it was because there was this external element. So that may mean you need to look at some of those external things first to say, oh, I've got an interested distributor or an interested production partner or an interested financier that's waiting on just the next step. That'll certainly motivate you.
Maybe we just teased another episode. Let's have somebody on here that can talk about that type of mindset and what it is. That seems like a Daren Smith mindset,
You
honestly.
just said mindset. I'm like, ding,
I know.
ding. If only we had a co-host.
I
We talk about that all the time.
saw your aura just kind of like expand, like, oh, mindset, processes,
Ooh,
systems,
let's
LinkedIn.
talk. Let's do it.
Um,
Amazing.
cool, man. Well, great discussion. Anything else going on this week?
No, I'm excited for and just grateful for all of the chatter around Ryan Coogler and Sinners. I think there's a lot that benefits just original films, not necessarily independent films, but I mean, he wrote that movie on spec and then took it to the studios and said, "Who wants it? And this is the deal. If you want this movie, you got to do my deal." And like that just speaks to what the future holds, I think, for independent filmmakers is you've got to own the way that you want to do it. You've got to take more responsibility for the entire process. In doing so, there's more upside there. So I love that it's just taking off and getting the attention it deserves. I saw it in a big IMAX screen format and loved every minute of it. It's such a good movie. And I just hope that everybody kind of takes note and applies some of those lessons that he graciously is putting out in the world. Like a lot of the marketing for Sinners is Ryan Coogler, and he's
Yeah,
giving us a masterclass in that as well.
which is really interesting. Even as Cameron was talking about, hey, I needed an IP or I needed something that would turn ahead. He said it's either a book or a sequel or an existing property or a name actor, and that popped in my mind. Is like, oh, we're at that stage now where there's a phase where the director, if the content doesn't have a proven audience, the director does.
Yeah.
And Ryan, there are a few that do that.
Yeah. But Christopher Nolan or Edgar Wright or there's
Greta,
Greta Gerwig, there's a number of who cares what they make next? I'm going to go see it because
yeah,
I know it'll be good.
yeah. Good stuff. So that goes back to what we even started this whole podcast: build your audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, man. Well, good stuff. I had a good week as well. I got to shoot a commercial with an old friend out in Wyoming.
Oh, nice.
So nice to just kind of be back on set and just it wasn't even a set. It was me going out and hanging out for an afternoon or for a day and filming for him.
Yeah.
But it felt good. And then I did a presentation this weekend that I mentioned during that conversation with Cameron, and it was really kind of neat. I was talking about my past films and just the different situations and kind of lessons learned from these past films, and it was fun to be able to share that with an audience. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
another good week.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel the itch more and more every day about trying to get back on set, but I've I've kind of established myself as like, I'm not taking work right now because I'm raising money for projects that I'm going to produce through the fund. So there's almost a conflict of interest there. But man, it'd be fun to just like go hang out on set one day with a friend and just be like, okay, it's still here. We're doing it. But
Well,
so,
I'll tell you this. I just sent a 15-page short script
hey,
into a distributor that has requested it, and we'll find out this week if that's going to move forward. And that would give us a day on set. And
nice.
so
There you go.
same thing where I feel that itch is like, I haven't done anything narrative for a little bit. Let's
Yeah.
keep going.
I've had 3 people in the last month reach out about helping produce a torch for Angel Studios. And so
Ah,
that to me seems like, oh, that could be
it's a
a
good way to
couple of
scratch that
weeks,
itch.
2 or 3 days on set, that could scratch the itch. So we'll see. We'll see if any of that comes together. In the meantime, I'm just knocking on doors. I'm looking at my calendar and I've got a dozen meetings lined up this week. So I'm just feeling really grateful. It goes back to what he was saying about we're lucky to be in this. Like I started raising money a few months ago, and now every week I've got 10 or 12 calls with people that are interested in what I'm building with the producer fund. And at some point, that flywheel is going to make its first circle. We'll get a big investor in, and that'll make it easier for the next and the next and the next. And then we're going to be making movies the next couple of years. So it'll happen. Just we don't know when. So you just keep going.
Keep going. Tune in to find out. Okay, thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for jumping in, Daren. And please share the episode. Let's help get this out there to the people that need to hear it.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Truly Independent. To join us on the journey, be notified, and ask us questions about today's episode, head over to 3coinpro.com/podcast and put in your name and an email address. If you're a fan of the show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and be sure to share this. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Our intro and outro music is Election Time by Kjartan Abel.